How many people in this room recognize the name Joyce Osborne? Not many. I want to tell you a quick story and one that illustrates some of the things we're talking about. When I became a member of the profession in Virginia, we, now VCA, was not the big show in town for conference. The big event was the VCA guidance section, which met every year in Richmond and had 4 or 5 times the attendance of our VCA predecessor organization. A long story which I was spared. I was asked, would you take on the task of working with the DEA guidance section to see if we can head off what is a looming conflict in the counseling profession, school counselors being separate. And the person that asked me said, I'm asking you to do this because the head of the VCA guidance section talks just like you do. And I think that's important. And my contact with Joyce Osborne became just a meaningful and treasured professional friendship. But what happened, Joyce was so respected among school counselors that she was credited. Likewise, as my colleagues have said, why Brad wanted to honor this, she believed very much in the big tent approach to counseling. She was a counselor at a vocational technical school. And so she worked very hard. I was a cheerleader and a golf course, but she deserves all of the credit for this. To get the DEA guidance section to endorse the idea that people could be school counselors without having been licensed and experienced teachers. Now, there were provisions in there that made it political. I'll spare you all, but that one breakthrough was the idea that we're all counselors. Some counselors practice in schools, some practice in vocational technical schools, some practice in higher education. And we come together today and celebrate being a profession under a big tent, add to the list of people that are unsung heroes that we thank Joyce Osborne.
Let me ask you this. I would wager that when you began your careers, you didn't set out to be a luminary, a giant, whatever else we called you today. If you were speaking to a new counselor or a student that may be at the conference for the first time today, what would you tell them about how to position themselves in the best way possible to be good at what you do as a counselor and to be a luminary themselves one day? I know you can do it.
To do the very best job that you can do, learn from your mistakes. There's nothing wrong with making a mistake as long as we learn from it, and I certainly have learned from mine over the years. To be active in the association, to keep up with what's new in the profession. At least, I know we don't all have time to read every page of the journals, but to at least skim through the journals and see what articles might apply to your area. To just keep up and to work with others, to work with, I found it very helpful to work with our counselor educators in Northern Virginia, to work with private therapists. There was a time when we were going through a lot for elementary counselors, from elementary counselors for undergrad, and one of our private therapists called and said, I will open my office one day a week for school counselors to come in and just talk. And we, for almost a year. Tony DeFrancesco held monthly group sessions for elementary school counselors to help us get through a really difficult time. To have people that you can call in the private sector to say, I've got this kid and this is what's going on. What are some things you might recommend? So expand your horizon. I think sometimes it's easy to get in your nice little niche and feel really comfortable. You know the people if you're a school counselor, you know the people at your school. If you're a clinical counselor, you know the people in the group you work with. But to expand beyond that and to keep learning. I'm a lifelong learner, and I believe in being a lifelong learner. And if you do those things, you just naturally will do more and more.
I think being open and believing in yourself and realizing that every single one of you sitting here has something to offer. And to not be afraid to try. When I first started out, I didn't have a clue. I didn't even understand what all the acronyms for the divisions and chapters were. I was following along. And I have to tell you, I've never been called a giant before. I think I'm very pleased here. I don't really think of myself that way. We all work hard, and I think that's just a piece of it. But be willing to say yes and to get involved, and don't be shy.
Two things. Never, ever, ever lose your passion. And second thing, share with your profession. Give. It's very important.
I've always felt that the best thing a counselor can do for the profession is be a good counselor. And I think probably the people in this room are. Because you're here, you're interested in your profession, you want professional development. And a lot of people, in my experience, have been very reluctant leaders. I can remember when we were talking to Bob about becoming president of VCA, and he was, okay, it's my turn. I mean, you know, he did it because not looking for to be a leader, but to do it because he needed to be a leader at that time. And your time will come, and when people ask you, I hope that you'll agree that to take on some leadership roles, because we have to have a steady stream of leaders.
I would only add to that, remember another part of our counseling, and that is using people's gifts. Everyone has gifts they can use to move this profession forward. And one of the things that I found, I did not have some of the gifts of charisma, et cetera, but my gift was being able to get surrounded with really, really super people that I could learn from, that would do things. And surround yourselves with people, build on the gifts you have, and every person can contribute, can do, and don't depend on someone else to do it. Because we are what we got.
Got a couple more questions. I wonder if there are any burning desires out in the audience, though. Questions that folks would like to have answers while we've got folks with us. While you ponder, what excites you? We've been talking a great deal about the foundation, about how we've gotten here, the foundation of the profession. What excites you about the future of the counseling profession? Anybody?
I think I'm excited when I have contact with the new counselors. Their energy, their knowledge, they bring to us the cutting edge information that is, as Jane says, many of us in our day-to-day work are so tired. When you get home at night, the reading of the journal is very brief. So I'm excited to see all the younger, newer counselors coming in. It excites me.
I think it's great to look back and realize that we've had in Virginia, since 1976, we've had professional licensure for counselors. To realize that since 1988, we've had elementary counselors mandated in the state. And we've been established now. Virginia has a history of having established counselors. And now I think what lies ahead is that we need to educate people more about what we do, and continue to bring good people into the profession, to help new people coming in to get, to become more proficient, and the results are people out there on the street who are doing a good job and are successful. And one of the disadvantages of being an educator, a counselor in an educational setting, or even in the, I think it's probably true of LTCs too, is that you may not know the results of your work with a child. They may move on. You may have a client who leaves the area, and you may not know that you have made a difference in that person's life because of something that you said or something that you referred them to. You made a difference. And I think that's what's great, is there are a lot of people out there, when people find out I'm a counselor, people start telling me stories. And, and I said, well, did you tell that counselor that? And no, a lot of people haven't done that. I think it's also exciting that now the military is beginning to accept that servicemen need counselors. And they're beginning to look at how to prevent PTSD instead of reacting years after the fact. So I think there's a lot of good things going on. More and more insurances are covering LPC services. You don't have to be a psychiatrist now in many cases. So there's a lot of important things going on, and I think it's up to us to take the ball and keep moving.